Alright, welcome back again. Aim of today's episode is just to be the ability to paste a URL into the feed link here, click save, and then have the podcast automatically fetched from the internet. So I think the first thing we want to do is start hiding some of these fields here. So let's just jump back into our editor, jump into the admin, and we can probably say fields. It's going to be feed link. Refresh this page. You can see there's only the feed link here. Looking at the documentation, I kind of want to override this this save model attribute here. So let's give that a try. We can just add a breakpoint here. Let's refresh this just in case. So let's copy paste this, and then jump into our terminal. So let's hit the breakpoint. We can see that the feed link is here, but if we continue the execution, it's probably going to crash because it's going to complain about a bunch of missing data. So at this point is where we actually want to import URLlib and fetch and pass some of that data. So let's try and do that. But first, I think we probably need to pull out this parser that we've written inside our tests into a separate file so we can reuse it. It was just convenient to do it in line at this point to get everything working, but now it's time to mature it a bit and pull it into its own file. So let's call a file parser.py, and then I think we're going to need to take most of this stuff and drop it into parser. And there's going to be a bunch of imports that it's going to complain about as well. So we go back to tests. I'm pretty sure we will need these two in parser. So we go here, and we'll probably also need the XML to dict. So we go back to parser. And let's just double check that the test is still working. No, not that one. This one, parse podcast is not defined, obviously, because I need to say from parser import parse podcast. Yes, just like that. If we do this, no module name podcast.parse. Why is that? Tests line 6, because I need to include the R. Let's give this a go. Okay, cool. And then there's some like ingestion logic, which I guess we will end up copying into the admin at some point, but for the time being, I think it's safe just to leave there. That's fine. So in our admin here, we're hitting this breakpoint. I think what we want to do is we want to import URLlib free and say URLlib free. Let's go and look at the documentation again. Request. We want to make a GET request. And it's going to be the object feed link, and we're going to essentially do what we did in the parser. So let's go look in the tests. Here we've got content, and we basically just pass that here, so we can copy and paste this. So we can say from parser import parse podcast. And we should have a past podcast here and some past episodes. Let's go back to our test and I guess copy this example here. I'm not sure if this super save is actually necessary, but let's just roll with it for the time being. We're still running here, we're still running here, so what happens if we refresh? It's going to give us a name area, data is not defined. Okay, let's have a look. Data, okay, yeah, that should be resp.data. That makes sense. So it seems like it was actually fetching the data and then just failing after a couple seconds. Okay, so we're failing because here there's no podcast.pubdate. That's interesting, but it passes in our test, but not here. So let's add a breakpoint and just have a look what's going on here. So we refresh this again. Hopefully we'll hit this breakpoint. You can say past podcast. It was complaining about this, so let's have a look at the pub date. which does appear to be there, which is interesting. So let's just try and continue again. Nope, no bueno. Maybe if we go back this way and click add podcast and it just hadn't refreshed properly. Let's try it this way. It's going to hit our breakpoint again, and again it's going to complain about a missing pub date. Interesting. Maybe the actual calling of the save is throwing it off. It does look like it's failing inside of save model, so maybe instead of object here we want to return this other podcast, potentially. See if this works. This does seem kind of like a suboptimal way of doing it. Let's see again. Continue. That looks promising. Wow. Okay, so click through to talk Python to me. This is taking some time. Oh, look at that! And it's passed every single one of our episodes. Now that is cool. So we have a way quickly to add podcasts through the UI, and it's also saved all of our episodes for us. That's pretty great. I think we probably want to add some kind of like defensive stuff in here. Oh, nice of my neighbours to start some drilling right as I do all this. What happens if I enter the same URL again? It's going to attempt to go fetch that podcast, but will it actually try and ingest that podcast data? Let's have a look. Oh, it's probably hit my breakpoint, that's why. Just like that, it's going to create 2 duplicate podcasts for us, which is not what we want. So we want to go to Django and figure out how to do unique model fields. And I imagine we want to make the feed link like a unique constraint. Unique. This is true, the field must be unique for every table. So let's go into kadmin here, models, and the podcast feed link. We want this to be unique, true, yes. So then we probably want to say make migrations. I imagine if we try and migrate this it will complain because we do have a duplicate. Okay, yeah, unique constraint failed, so we're going to have to go into the admin. We're going to unfortunately have to delete one of our duplicates here. It's a lot of episodes. Yes, I am sure. This original Talk Python, does it still have all of the episodes? It does. So now I imagine we can actually apply this migration. And then if we attempt to add a podcast that has the same feed URL, it's going to complain. So a podcast with this feed link already exists. Fantastic. Alright, that seems like a good place to stop. And I think in the next episode, what I will do is potentially try and add some more podcasts, or look at rendering some of this in our own UI instead of in the admin.